The idea of the end times has fascinated humanity for centuries. From ancient prophecies to modern-day interpretations, the concept of a final reckoning has been a recurring theme in religious, cultural, and political discourse. The Book of Revelation, the final book of the New Testament, is perhaps the most well-known source of end-time prophecies in Christianity. It describes a series of apocalyptic events that will culminate in the return of Jesus Christ and the establishment of a new heaven and earth. In recent years, some have drawn parallels between contemporary political events and the prophecies outlined in Revelation. Among the figures who have been the subject of such speculation is Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States. Trump's policies, rhetoric, and global influence have led some to wonder whether his presidency could be a sign of the end times. In this exploration, we will delve into the Book of Revelation, examine Trump's policies and global influence, and compare modern political events with biblical end-time signs. We will also consider the broader implications of interpreting contemporary events through the lens of ancient prophecy. The Book of Revelation, also known as the Apocalypse of John, is a complex and symbolic text that has been interpreted in various ways throughout history. It is traditionally attributed to John of Patmos, a Christian prophet who wrote the text while in exile on the island of Patmos. The book is written in the form of a letter to 7 churches in Asia Minor and contains a series of visions that describe the end of the world. Revelation is filled with vivid imagery, including the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the beast, the whore of Babylon, and the battle of Armageddon. These symbols have been interpreted in countless ways, with some seeing them as literal events and others viewing them as allegorical representations of spiritual truths. One of the key themes of Revelation is the struggle between good and evil, culminating in the ultimate triumph of God over Satan. The book also emphasizes the importance of faith, perseverance, and resistance to worldly temptations. Donald Trump's presidency was marked by a series of controversial policies and actions that had a significant impact on both the United States and the world. Some of the key aspects of his presidency include: 1. America First policy. Trump's America First agenda emphasized national sovereignty, economic protectionism, and a reduction in foreign entanglements. This approach led to the renegotiation of trade deals, such as the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which was replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. Trump also withdrew the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization, WHO, signaling a shift away from multilateralism. 2. Immigration and border security. Trump's hardline stance on immigration was a central theme of his presidency. He implemented policies such as the travel ban on several predominantly Muslim countries, the construction of a border wall between the United States and Mexico, and the controversial family separation policy at the southern border. 3. Foreign policy. Trump's foreign policy was characterized by a focus on direct diplomacy and a willingness to challenge traditional allies and adversaries alike. He engaged in high-profile meetings with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, brokered the Abraham Accords to normalize relations between Israel and several Arab states, and took a tough stance on China, particularly regarding trade and intellectual property issues. 4. Domestic policies. Trump's domestic agenda included significant tax cuts through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, efforts to deregulate various industries, and the appointment of 3 Supreme Court justices, which had a lasting impact on the judiciary. 5. COVID-19 pandemic. The Trump administration faced significant challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic, with mixed responses to the crisis. While Operation Warp Speed successfully accelerated the development of vaccines, the administration was criticized for its handling of the pandemic, including downplaying the severity of the virus and inconsistent messaging. Given the dramatic and often polarizing nature of Trump's presidency, it is not surprising that some have drawn connections between his actions and the prophecies of Revelation. Let's explore some of these parallels and consider their implications. The rise of authoritarian leaders. Revelation speaks of the rise of powerful leaders who will exert control over nations and people. In chapter 13, the beast is described as a figure who gains authority and worship from the inhabitants of the earth. Some interpreters see this as a reference to authoritarian leaders who rise to power through manipulation and coercion. Trump's leadership style has often been described as authoritarian, with his use of executive orders, his attacks on the media, and his efforts to undermine institutions that opposed him. His rhetoric, which often emphasized strength and dominance, resonated with many who felt disillusioned with traditional political elites. However, it is important to note that Trump's presidency was also marked by significant resistance and pushback, both within the United States and internationally. The rise of movements such as Black Lives Matter and the Women's March, as well as the impeachment proceedings against Trump, suggest that his authority was far from absolute. Global conflict and instability. Revelation predicts a period of global conflict and instability leading up to the end times. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, described in chapter 6, represent conquest, war, famine, and death, signaling a time of widespread suffering and chaos. During Trump's presidency, the world experienced significant geopolitical tensions. The trade war with China, the escalation of conflicts in the Middle East, and the ongoing threat of nuclear proliferation all contributed to a sense of global instability. Additionally, the COVID-19 pandemic, which began during Trump's presidency, caused unprecedented disruption and loss of life worldwide. While these events may align with the imagery of Revelation, it is important to recognize that global conflict and instability are not unique to any one period in history. The 20th century, for example, saw two world wars, the Cold War, and numerous other conflicts. Thus, while the events of Trump's presidency may be seen as part of a broader pattern of global turmoil, they do not necessarily indicate the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. The role of Israel. Israel plays a significant role in many interpretations of Revelation, particularly in relation to the Battle of Armageddon, which is said to take place in the region of Megiddo. Some believe that the re-establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 and subsequent events in the Middle East are signs of the end times. Trump's policies toward Israel were notably supportive, including the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the relocation of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab states, were seen as a major diplomatic achievement. For those who view Israel as central to biblical prophecy, Trump's actions may be seen as aligning with the fulfillment of end-time signs. However, others argue that the focus on Israel in Revelation is symbolic rather than literal, representing the broader struggle between good and evil rather than specific geopolitical events. The Mark of the Beast. One of the most well-known symbols in Revelation is the Mark of the Beast, described in chapter 13 as a mark that people must receive in order to buy or sell. This mark is often interpreted as a sign of allegiance to the Antichrist, a figure who opposes God and deceives humanity. In the modern context, some have speculated that the mark of the beast could be related to technology, such as microchips or digital identification systems. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the use of vaccine passports and digital health records led to renewed speculation about the mark of the beast. While these technologies raise important ethical and privacy concerns, it is a stretch to equate them with the mark of the beast as described in Revelation. The text emphasizes the spiritual significance of the mark, representing a choice between loyalty to God and allegiance to the forces of evil. Thus, while technology may play a role in shaping society, it is not necessarily a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. The Whore of Babylon. Revelation describes the Whore of Babylon as a figure who represents corruption, idolatry, and the exploitation of power. She is depicted as riding a beast and is associated with the wealth and decadence of a great city. Some interpreters have drawn parallels between the Whore of Babylon and modern institutions or cities that are seen as centers of corruption and excess. For example, New York City, where Trump made his fortune as a real estate developer, has been described by some as a modern-day Babylon. However, this interpretation is highly subjective and depends on one's perspective. While New York City is undoubtedly a global financial hub, it is also a center of culture, innovation, and diversity. Thus, the comparison to the whore of Babylon is more a reflection of the interpreter's biases than a literal fulfillment of prophecy. While it can be intriguing to draw parallels between contemporary events and biblical prophecy, it is important to approach such interpretations with caution. The Book of Revelation is a highly symbolic and complex text, and its meaning has been debated for centuries. Applying its imagery to specific individuals or events can lead to oversimplification and misinterpretation. Moreover, the focus on end-time prophecies can distract from the broader message of Revelation, which emphasizes the importance of faith, perseverance, and resistance to evil. The book encourages believers to remain steadfast in their commitment to God, even in the face of persecution and adversity. In the context of Trump's presidency, it is worth considering how his policies and actions align with the values of justice, compassion, and humility that are central to the Christian faith. While some may see his leadership as a sign of the end times, others may view it as a call to engage more deeply with the challenges of the present moment and to work toward a more just and equitable world. The idea that Donald Trump's presidency could be a sign of the end times is a fascinating and provocative notion. By examining his policies and global influence in light of the Book of Revelation, we can gain insights into the ways in which contemporary events are interpreted through the lens of ancient prophecy. However, it is important to approach such interpretations with a critical eye and to recognize the limitations of drawing direct parallels between specific individuals or events and the symbolic language of Revelation. The book's ultimate message is one of hope and redemption, reminding us that even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty, God's ultimate triumph over evil is assured. As we navigate the complexities of the modern world, we would do well to focus on the values of faith, compassion, and justice that are at the heart of the Christian tradition. Whether or not we are living in the end times, our task remains the same: to live with integrity, to care for one another, and to seek the peace and well-being of all people. In the end, the question of whether Trump's presidency is a sign of the end times may be less important than the question of how we choose to respond to the challenges of our time. By focusing on the values that truly matter, we can work toward a future that reflects the hope and promise of the kingdom of God.